Hola, Captain. So, I got another story. And this one in particular has to do with people that are, in the military and lie about their experience in the military. And this comes from again, this is a story that I've experienced, I've witnessed, and watched how it all unfolded. So just hang tight. So, about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, I knew this fella. I'm not going to mention his name, but this fella that my now girlfriend used to date. He was a Marine, and he was able to prove that he was a Marine. I know he was a Marine. He had all the paperwork. He had the uniform get up. He, got VA money, whatever the fuck. I don't know what the terminology is for all that kind of stuff, but he was in the military. He was a Marine. However, what is interesting about this particular story is he lied about what he did in the Marines, which makes no fucking sense at all. Because if you ask a lot of people, what do you think the highest or the best branch of the military is? A lot of the times, if you haven't ever been in the military, a lot of the times you'll hear people say, things like Marines, Delta, or whatever the fuck. And so already having such a high a high position within the branches, what a lot of people consider one of the more honorable. It's kind of interesting that you would find someone that was in that kind of position and would lie about what they did in that position during their service. So, one thing that he always used to tell me and my now girlfriend is that he went overseas his entire service, and that he shot kids, he swept feet out of the road, and he watched a couple of his brothers die from bombs and shit like that. And what was interesting about that was, I was like, that sounds a little bit like a movie, like something you'd see in Jarhead or, American Sniper or American, whatever, with the movie with Chris Kyle. And one thing he would always say to us was, don't tell anyone about that, or don't ask any of my friends or family about that. Okay, I mean, I don't know why we would in the first place. Why would we be asking other people about your experience in the military? It's not something that would ever cross my mind. I come from a family with, of, military men. And, I don't even ask them questions about it because, personally, I just don't give a fuck. It's just, and so I thought that was always kind of interesting how he would always announce that as he was telling his story. Every single story he had ever said that dealt with him being overseas is, don't mention that to anyone. Don't ask anyone about it. And not last Christmas, but the Christmas before, his mom was visiting from California. That's where they were from, was California. And the first thing he said to us, because I was living, with them at the time, the first thing he said to us before they went and picked up his mom from the airport was, don't tell my mom that I was overseas. Again, okay, it's kind of weird. I don't know why I'd be asking her about that, asking her questions about that experience anyways, unless she brought it up. But what he said was, because I asked him, I was like, why? He said, because she doesn't know I was overseas. Okay, I caught it at that point. I knew something was up. Because if you went overseas, who would the first person be that you told? Assuming that you are, close to your mom, which he was. He was very close. They talked like every day. So how would, and he claimed he was over there for like 2 years. And I said, eventually she would have found out on her own anyways. How did he go 2 years in the military overseas and her not know a fucking thing about it? And on top of that, if you're that close with your mom, why wouldn't you tell her? And so that was red flag number one for me. And again, he always went on these stories about how he had to shoot kids and how he had to sweep, body parts out of the road. And there was a story about how he spotted, a mine. I don't know what the acronym or the terminology again was for it, but he said he spotted a mine before a Humvee got to it. But I guess he called it too late, and the Humvee ran over it, and it killed everyone in that Humvee, and, severely messed up everyone else, including him, supposedly. And then there was another time where he said he saw another bomb, mine, whatever the fuck, and that went off, and he got a piece of shrapnel right here. He had a scar right here on his forehead, just a little itty bitty cut. And then what was interesting was a few months later, he gave me a different story on how he got that cut. He said that he got that cut during boot camp, I guess is what it's called, whatever their training is, whenever they first enlist. He said he got it in boot camp from doing the stick things, where you have to knock the other person off the beam. He said he got the scar from that, because I guess they ran at each other so hard that they butted heads. So then I come to find out that he told my now girlfriend that he got that scar in a football accident, that someone stepped on his head with a cleat in high school. Man, these stories were racking up. I tell you what, man. Fucking idiot. So, these stories went from he had a piece of shrapnel going to his head to it was an accident in boot camp to it was an accident during football. I didn't even believe any of them after hearing if you switch your story on how you get a scar even the first time, I'm sorry, I'm not going to believe you anymore. Especially if it has, if it's relevant to the military. And you're just working backwards from that way. You go from the most extreme way you could get a scar, and it just kind of slowly goes down to, oh, I got it during football in high school. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to believe anything you say anymore. I'm just not. I don't give a fuck what you did in the service. I don't care. If you can't hold your story straight for at least a few months, why would I believe you anymore? And kind of going back to when his mom came to town, it was funny because we didn't even have to say anything to her. She almost slipped up and said that he wasn't even overseas anyways. He never even left the States. He spent his whole time in the States. And so what I thought was interesting is, like, again, you're in what a lot of people consider to be one of the most honorable fucking branches of the military, and you lie about what your position was in the military. Why? Did you get such a shit job that you're embarrassed of it, that you have to lie about shooting kids, picking up body parts, and, saying that your brothers died and everything? Like, get the fuck out of here. Get real, bro. That's so fucking whack. I can't believe people that do that kind of shit. Like, it's such an honor to be in the military anyways, and for you to go in there and lie about what you did in the military because you're that embarrassed about what you did, fuck yourself. And the funny thing is he was always giving me a hard time because I never paid my respects to him as a Marine. I'm sorry, motherfucker. I'm not gonna pay anyone respect. I'm not the kind of person that gives any military man fucking respect, unless you're a veteran and I see that you got a leg blown off or something like that because you were overseas and you were doing your thing, and boom, you got blown the fuck up, or you got shot, or you went through some severe trauma while you were enlisted. Yes, of course, I might actually pay you my respect. But if you were an engineer in the military, everyone has their service. Everyone does their part to make the whole thing go. There's not one in particular position that you can commend over the other. There's definitely scenarios that I can commend over the other, but definitely not a position. I'm sorry, just no. You enlisted in the military. For you to expect me, for me to give you respect, no. You get respect when you give respect. It's a two-way street. Why would I... And again, coming from a family of military people, I didn't even give a fuck when my brother got back from the military, and he was in the military for like 8 years. I didn't give a fuck. I never said thank you for your service. He went in there on his own free will because he wanted the benefits. He didn't care about this country. He didn't care about saving people or, you know, doing the patriotic thing. No, he did it strictly for the benefits, as most people do. It's like a rare chance when you actually meet someone that went into the military and they did it because they truly love this country and they want to defend this country. Even then, at that point, still, if that's the reason you went in, you chose it. You know, that's no different than me choosing some job and then I'm expecting someone to give me commendment for doing a hell of a job because I did that job so awesome. I chose that job. Why would I have that expectation of other people to go out of their way to give me respect for what I do? I got paid to do that. It's not like it was a fucking draft and he fucking had to go. He didn't have to. He chose it on his own free fucking will. And you know what? He did the minimum fucking contract that you can do. No, if that is your career choice and that's what you do for your whole life until you retire, yeah, tip my hat off to you. That's not an easy job. It's a very demanding job. Again, though, especially if I'm gonna catch all the little holes in your stories about what you did in the military, I'm never gonna pay you respect. That's almost as bad as having stolen valor, my guy. You know, you're putting yourself on a fucking pedestal that you were never even on. And you're gonna waltz around at, you know, demanding all this fucking respect and flaunting that you were a fucking Marine. Hoorah. Fucking, no. I don't give a fuck. I know that sounds a little harsh, but it's just the cold hard truth. You can't expect someone to give you respect, and especially if I'm calling out your bullshit of what you did. Again, I'm not going to name any names, but I thought that was pretty interesting. And he's not the first person I've ran into that had that kind of experience. But even my closest friends that had been in the military, my brother that was in the military, it doesn't make sense for you to lie about it. I've never... It's such an uncommon thing, you know. You're already getting such an amount of respect just for even being in there, no matter what branch you are. Why lie about it? Like, why lie about what you did? Doesn't make sense to me, but, you know, that's how I think, I guess. But another story for another time.